Our keynote speaker for today is someone whose journey is deeply intertwined with the story of India's technology revolution. Long before India became recognized as a global technology powerhouse, he was among the visionaries who believed that Indian innovation could compete on the world stage. As a co-founder of NASSCOM, he played a pivotal role in laying the foundation of India's IT services ecosystem, an ecosystem that today powers innovation and economic growth across the globe. Please join me in welcoming our keynote speaker, Mr. Harish Mehta, founder and EC Onward Tech and co-founder NASSCOM. A huge round of applause for Mr. Mehta.
Good morning, friends. I have a prepared speech, but listening to Harish, I'm not going to use that. I want to answer some of the questions that you have raised in whatever you may want to call it a speech. So first of all, thank you for inviting me, Harish, to be here and share my views. Before I get into the speech, your theme today is AI for Viksit Bharat. My sense of AI is not just AI as a technology. I include all advanced technologies in AI, biotech, robotics, you name it, blockchain and whatnot. But not only the technologies, but I also add the infrastructure, the soft infrastructure required to succeed. That means leadership, entrepreneurship, building institutions, building ecosystems, all that as a package is what I call AI. When you say Viksit Bharat, I don't know how many of you have read my book, Maverick Effect. So, hi there. So in that book, I have laid out my vision about India. This was about 5 years back, before ChatGPT came in. And my vision about India is that India will shine through millions and millions of fireflies over 782 districts of India. India will not shine through one industrialist or two industrialists or one political leader or two political leaders. India should shine through millions of fireflies. And that is my definition of Viksit Bharat. And these millions of fireflies are each one of you, partly, all over the country. Each one of you will excel in what you do. So that is my definition of Viksit Bharat. So whatever I'm going to say around this definition of AI for Viksit Bharat. By the way, since I'm an author, I can go on for 45 minutes easily. So please stop me once I exceed my time limit. I'm also a techno-optimist. I have seen India when it was a snake charmer's country, fakir's country, bankrupt on foreign exchange, and emerging as a global tech powerhouse. And it was not by accident, not by luck. It was the sheer hard work of large number of people working together. And that's one message I want to I'll expand later. To add to what you said, for four attributes of Viksit Bharat, I'm adding the fifth one. In order to achieve that, you have to build an ecosystem. If you do not focus on the ecosystem, your growth would be highly limited. And I'll give some of the examples of what we did to build the ecosystem. And that's my final, actually, recommendation to all of you is that Bombay Chamber of Commerce has to emerge as an organization who would encourage, apart from, your focus would be to build, let's say, creating awareness about AI, which this seminar is. But it will go beyond and say, how do we create AI-ready leaders? How do we create AI-ready organizations? But I want to go beyond that and say how we are going to diffuse AI in the country. That should be also part of the Chamber's goal and the vision. You talked about electricity. Now, okay, as a techno-optimist, I am so, I would say, bullish about the potential of AI making Viksit Bharat. I think AI will enable every one of us to contribute. And I'm talking, when I say everyone, I'm meaning 1 billion Indians. Once they are AI enabled, they would create the Viksit Bharat that we are looking forward to. And I'm quite, I would say, positive because I've seen how India changed from the worst of the worst environment. And today, we have almost everything going for us. We have a very government which is very supportive, industry is so well educated, academia is so much aware of it. So all these factors will come together, and I think the people are smart enough to come out, take all the right decisions to change India. Now, so you talked about electricity. So I'll give you one example. Why I feel so confident India also can deliver in spite of we are not making chips, in spite of we are not making frontier models, in spite of we don't have cloud technology. So the bottom 3-4 layers of the what we call AI stack are not in India, not available, and will take time for us to develop. And one of the restrictions there is the R&D. If you see the face recognition algorithm, it took 32 years by 30 different research groups to come up to that stage. India has to replicate that R&D culture in India. And today, from government to academia to industry, the entire R&D chain is broken at various stages. We are only 75 years old, keep that in mind. We are not where other countries are. So we have a challenge, but there is so much happening at every bottleneck of this R&D chain that I'm quite confident that in the next 5 years, you will start seeing major change happening in the country. India will emerge as an innovation-driven country. Just go to IIT Bombay and take a walk. You will be absolutely amazed with the R&D work that is happening at IIT Bombay alone. So there's a what you call constraint on us in terms of where we are. But then what are our strengths? So there, I give an example back to the electricity that steam engine was invented by Britain. Most of the advanced technologies of industrial revolutions were invented by Britain. But who took the maximum benefit out of it? America. When Americans saw the steam engine, and of course Britons had the textile mills which were driven through this steam engine. So when the electricity came or electric engines came, the textile mill owners, they replaced the steam engine by the electric engine, which gave about very incremental improvement. When the Americans saw it, they didn't have that legacy. So they said, why not we redesign with electric motors as the foundation? And they saw that the productivity jumped many, many fold. And so they started moving ahead, in spite of they were not the original creators of this advanced technology, so-called of that industrial revolution. So from there, eventually microwave ovens, refrigerators, all the new industries took birth. And there is no reason why AI will not replicate the same model going forward. There are many new industries will take birth, which you and I can't even imagine today. But I'm sure some of the founders would be imagining what those new industries could be. And India has 240,000 startups now, which will, I'm hoping, that will create, or the thinking through the ideas of how to build the new age industries of tomorrow. So if USA can adopt and rethink, why can't India do? When we say AI-driven organization, what do we mean by that? Why can't we assume today that you or your organization, you're starting from today as a base, keeping AI in mind, and now you design your organization around it. You will see amazing productivity improvement, and you will be able to come up with better products, better services, even new business models for your own business that you do, which can have a huge impact on what you do. So that advantage is there for India. Now, let me come back to the IT industry as an example to you. We didn't invent internet. We didn't invent computers. We didn't invent telecommunications. Then how did we build the global tech industry? So I'll go back to 1991. Our industry, while there was a $300 billion potential for exports, We didn't have a communication link. India was just not connected. And then we came to know that a consortium of many countries from Singapore to Middle East, they are laying a cable connecting Singapore to Dubai. So we said, why can't this cable be routed through Singapore to Chennai to Mumbai to Dubai? Now the cost was $110 million. We were bankrupt on foreign exchange. So the government said, if you can, to the VSNL, not to us, that if you can find money, please go ahead and do it. Now, he could find the money, Mr. Singhal of VSNL, and got the link coming in 94. And that link became a game changer for our industry. But I would go even beyond. It is not the link. Link was an enabler, infrastructure enabler. It is the entrepreneurs who converted that link into successful businesses. As you know, the outsourcing as a business model emerged out of India. Global delivery model emerged out of India. And that continued to grow. Just think, in terms of, it is the leadership, it is the entrepreneurship that will take advantage of technology. It's not the AI as a technology. It is the leadership, it is the entrepreneurship that will convert this technology into the solution that we want. Now, as we all know, AI is such a, you talked about job scare. People are worried about jobs. I don't know how many of you know, but Jeff Hinton, the Nobel Prize winner on AI, he was in 2019, so I said that radiologists will disappear from as a profession because AI will do the full analysis of the screens and the data that would be emerging out of those MRI machines. After 5 years, the demand for radiologists has increased. Now, what has happened is a radiologist does 28 different tasks. One of the tasks is analyzing the screen. Now, that has been automated. As a matter of fact, that has freed up his time. So he's able to do more work. And 6, 8, 7 billion people need this facility. So the need for radiologists increased. And they could fulfill that demand. And that will happen in every one of our jobs. That our tasks will get, which are repetitive in nature, will get automated. And that will free up all of us from what we are doing as mundane work. I myself, for example, I believe my productivity is up. I spend at least 2 hours a day on LLMs, learning, inquiring, whatever. And I find my productivity is up 3x, literally. And there are reports saying that any engineer, their productivity will be up 4 to 5x. Jeff Bezos has gone on record saying that there are so many large, complex projects which we are not able to undertake. Which takes 10 years, now we can do it in 3 years. And he sees those kind of projects multiplying. And it will create plenty of jobs. So there are various, there are of course people who, like Sam Altman and Dario, in order to, I believe again, to promote their products and services, keeps coming up with the doomsday scenarios. But even in USA, there is no statistic, even today, which says the jobs have reduced. As a matter of fact, the unemployment is the lowest. So what are we concerned about? Why are we concerned about? I don't know yet. I don't know who has been, even take TCS for example. Last quarter, they added 9,000 people. Vinod Khosla had said 3 years back that the IT industry in India will be eliminated. Where is Vinod Khosla today? Where is IT industry today? Yesterday, Cognizant showed fantastic growth compared to what everybody has been saying. We believe, as a matter of fact, other way around. Even N. Chandra of TCS is on record saying that we are seeing more demand than we have ever seen. And it is not yet converted into projects. So it will take some time. But as it starts happening, like when the Fractal announced their quarterly result, again, he talked about some $150 million project he got from one of the Fortune 500 company. where again job is going to be look at open source models, open weight models, closed models, put it together, integrate and solve certain problems. So we are seeing great opportunities, frankly, on the, from the IT industry perspective as it moves forward. I'm not even talking about global capability centers, which somebody was saying, I don't like the word GCC, but whatever it may be. But we have 2,100 GCCs in the country, and everyone is adding more resources. And they are doing cutting-edge AI work, which includes everything, Gen AI, agentic AI, autonomous AI, all facets of AI technologies. These GCC companies are using it. So and we have 200,000 startups. They also are adding more people. So anyway, so that's the process right now going on. But yes, there is a narrative that it will definitely take away certain tasks which can be automated, which are repetitive in nature. So moving forward, AI is I would say, such a powerful technology from that perspective. Sorry, how much time we have? Okay. So AI from that perspective is the, I would say, God-given gift to India. And we have to embrace it with all our wish to drive it. However, as I said a little before, that one of the missing pieces in our approach to that is the ecosystem approach, which we need to really add to the key thing to be done. Let me give some examples here. And again, NASSCOM would be the best for me to give an example. When we started NASSCOM going back in 88, 89, 90, we had all the stalwarts of IT industry, Mr. Kohli of TCS, Murthy of Infosys, Azim Premji of Wipro, and many others. 40 of us came together and formed it. And there was a major trust deficit between government and us. But we realized that when we all met, we were not talking to each other. There was no trust amongst all of us. So we realized that we have to build this trust with all of us. And then only we can build trust with the policy makers. And then we also took certain decisions at that time that we will represent 80% of the top line of the industry. But as a matter of fact, we delayed forming NASSCOM till Mr. Kohli said yes, because TCS had 70% top line. We said we don't want to start NASSCOM without TCS. Otherwise, we are just a small association with no national impact. If we want to have an impact, we have to have 80% of the top line. And we also decided, whatever we discuss for policy recommendation, internally we'll debate, fight for as long as we want. Maybe take years, doesn't matter. But we will not wash our dirty linen in public afterwards. The policy makers will get a single voice, single recommendation, whatever the composite recommendation that industry gives. And that worked like a charm. I'll give one story here about global capability centers. In the early 90s, we had positioned India as a back office of the world. Now, so IBM, GE, and many other companies who were our customers, they saw the kind of quality of work that our industry was doing. So they came back to us, and at that time they were not allowed 100% equity. Their maximum allowed was 40%. So they came back to us and said, can NASSCOM represent us and have 60% be converted also into equity? Now in our industry, when we all sat together, we said, my God, why should we allow them? Government is giving us a natural protection. Why should we allow them? If they come, they'll take away our people paying double the salary. Even the small work that we are doing for them, that also they'll take it away. So there were lots of fears. But then we had built it, by that time, trustworthy environment within NASSCOM. And we were encouraging everyone to contribute freely. We call it their creative juices flowing to solve the problem. So in that process, somebody said, I don't know who, but they will develop the human capital of India. Everybody said, yes, that is true. They will develop the human capital of India. And if they come, we will also learn from them. Our quality processes are anyway homegrown. So they will bring in those quality processes that will help us. And if we make proper Indian brand, it will expand because like IBM alone had a $2-3 billion outsourcing budget. They were hardly giving 10 billion to India. So that also will expand to us. So we went back again to the whole, Mr. Kohli, do you agree to allow 100% equity for MNCs? He said yes. Mr. Murthy, Mr. Azim Premji, everybody said yes. Then we went to finance minister and we said we recommend 100% equity. The first thing was they said, one of the officers said, Vapas, East India Company, like you are come to sell India. Tum kiske dalal ho? But anyway, Dr. Manmohan Singh, who was the finance minister at that time, he saw through it and he said, no, I think it makes sense. We should allow them to come in. They will help develop the human capital of India, plus earn foreign exchange, create jobs, retain best of best Indians in the country, X, Y, and Z. He was sold on it. And he allowed 100% equity. Now that single decision of allowing them to come in, today they have, last year they earned $100 billion of revenue on export. They employ 2.4 million engineers. And many of them are now doing cutting-edge research in India. Now just analyze that particular decision. Industry was willing to compromise short-term for the long-term. Industry could identify, I would say, a signal from the noise. AI is nothing but noise today. How are we going to identify the right signals for us? But here is an example of how, after 6-9 months of debate internally, that signal was identified and pushed up. Think of, instead of saying scarcity mindset, I like zero-sum mindset saying, why allow them to come in? For whatever reason, the industry had an abundance mindset. The market is so big, so there's a room for every one of us to play. Not only that, it will allow new ones to take birth also. So that philosophy, that thinking has to sink in. And that's what happened. Okay? And that logic of that way of working continued in many areas, including creating, say, triple IITs, when the industry realized that IITs and IIMs and others are not going to create the global managers that the industry needs. We need a different institute. So came up with the concept of triple IIT with the UGC, and that was implemented. Now we have 25 triple IITs in operation with multidisciplinary skill sets. Like that, I can go on for many such stories happened because people came together, creative juices flowing with no personal agenda, keeping India first, and taking those decisions. Now, look at, so that's the piece of, I would say, piece you need to add in your analysis saying that, hey, we need that also at an ecosystem level. We need a group of people, group of associations to work together. Where are the bottlenecks for AI and how do we work at it to remove them? Now, as far as the strategy for India is concerned, AI strategy, I put that under 3 pillars. One pillar is AI for India, which is India must own all the layers of AppStack, that is from LLMs to inference engine to applications. And Sarvam is a good example. I was very happy to see that they announced yesterday that in 6 months they will release a trillion parameter LLM, which is 5 times cheaper than the closed ones, would be available here. But of course, it's the beginning. I think India needs many more Sarvams and cover the entire base. Because from sovereignty perspective, from giving a what you call niche commercial solution to a customer, this would come in very handy. The second is AI for India. This is where I would love to see every Indian or every child, poorest of poor in Bihar or wherever, should get the best AI teacher available today. Whatever is available to a richest person in South Bombay, the same AI tutor would be available to an AI tutor in Bihar, let's say. That's what it's our job to see that these AI tutors come up and they get diffused in the society. Same way on the healthcare. I think every doctor should have an AI assistant. And then, like radiologists, his productivity should go up 5 times, can service more, and then improve the health from that perspective. Every MSME entrepreneur, I mean, they will definitely reduce his cost of innovation, will have on tap, I mean, everything that he wants, from marketing services to compliance services to logistics to whatnot. I'm looking at that MSME entrepreneur. Once he gets imbibed into it, their productivity also shoot up. They'll earn more money. Once they earn more money, they'll expand, they'll create jobs. So we see millions of jobs getting again created by the MSME sector. Just to give a simple example, my marketing agency, digital marketing agency, I was talking to them yesterday. He said for every customer of his, he has now developed an agent. And these agents are given to his sales team. I couldn't believe in somebody in India is now as current as happening anywhere in the world. And of course, his investment hasn't yet paid off from that perspective, but he's expecting in the next 1 or 2 years, whatever investment he has made would pay off. There's nothing to stop any one of us from driving it. And the third is AI from India. And that pillar talks about IT industry. There are years of, I would say, experience in developing complex, large, transformational projects. They have strong expertise in integration, bringing in any hardware, software product from around the world and blending it to solve customer problems. We were seeing great opportunity for IT industry to grow. Now you talk about 200,000 startups. Again, most of them are starting with India as a marketplace, with our population, 22 different languages, diverse population. The products that they develop, once they mature, they will be ready for export outside. Again, the great opportunity for the startups also as AI from India. And of course, these servants of the world would offer a great service, I call it, to, again, open source services around that to many countries, more so I would say, because our biggest strength is data. And once that data is fed into the servers and those LLMs, they will be far more powerful, unbiased compared to what you see from outside. So we see, again, great opportunity for these LLMs to come in. I think with this, I hope now I'm going beyond the time. I'll close here. So I wish all of you to participate in diffusing AI in the country. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mehta. Please request you to stay on the desk as I invite Mr. Harish Narayan to present you with a memento, please. Yeah. A huge round of applause for Mr. Mehta. Request both of the Harishes to please stay on the stage. And I also request Mr. Harish Tibrewala, CEO of Anand Consultancy Services, also part of our digitalization committee. So in March this year, we published the CEO's AI Playbook, a collection of essays authored by 50 of India's leading CEOs. And we request all the 3 Harishes if we can release the book. A huge round of applause for our esteemed guests. On the count of 3, okay, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, all right. We also have the flipbook version of the book, and you can see the QR code. You all can scan it. It's a very interesting, a powerhouse kind of edition. Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen.